Welcome back to the show this morning at 6:17. So we get the day underway. I thought it was interesting a few minutes ago as we were getting ready to start the show at the top of the headline hour. They run the news right at the top of the hour and they're talking about how Trump is, kind of talking to his voter base saying we need to remain united against this idea of abortion and, this kind of a pro-life movement. And I think it's interesting, this is, always a big topic, particularly as we come around to political elections. And, of course, this goes back to the Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion, in the last century, like 50 years ago now. And it's interesting because, this is always the hot debate about abortion. And, it always comes up. And I thought it was very interesting that there was a study out from the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it's probably not a good idea that a economic research foundation does a study on abortion because it's, their numbers just don't make a lot of sense. But did you ever see the movie with Tom Cruise called Minority Report?
Oh yeah.
Okay, remember this movie? So if you haven't seen the movie with Tom Cruise, it's called Minority Report, and it's a sci-fi thriller. But it's about the future where they have these three very, what would you call it, cognitive individuals, I guess. They have them in this chamber, and they can foresee crime that's going to happen, right? So they're psychic, I guess is the way to put that.
They're neural networked.
Yeah. So but anyway, they can foresee crime before it happens. And so they have a whole pre-crime unit that is headed by Tom Cruise. And, of course, he goes out and he arrests people before they even commit the crime because they've thought about committing it. They're going to do it, but this pre-crime unit can catch you before you actually commit the crime. So they arrest you on the pre-crime. There's lots of debate about, the constitutionality of that. But we've seen some things in recent years where states are now trying to pass laws that if you're online and you're saying stuff online that could potentially lead to a crime, they can arrest you pre-crime, right?
You have a collection of pressure cookers.
Exactly. We're not that far away from it.
Right.
But the reason I bring that up in that movie is that the National Bureau of Economic Research did a study talking about legalized abortion. They said that legalized abortion has reduced crime. Here's the actual quote. We estimate that crime fell roughly 20% between 1997 and 2014 due to legalized abortion. The cumulative impact of legalized abortion on crime is roughly 45%, accounting for a very substantial portion of the roughly 50 to 55% overall decline from the peak of crime in the early 1990s. Now, there's a couple of very interesting points that's made. Now, we know from statistics that legalized abortion impacts the minority community more so than about any other ethnic group in the country. We also know that if we look at the number of people that are incarcerated, a very high percentage level of the number of people that are incarcerated are from minority communities. Okay, so these are just statistics. I'm not making any claim about this. I'm just saying these are what the stats are. But here's the interesting thing about this study. Now, they said that they estimated that crime fell by 20% between 1997 and 2014 due to legalized abortion. So I have a problem with this I am Christian, so I am pro-life. Okay, it's just it's not a political statement. It's just my personal belief, right? So from my religious views, when you do abortion, you have now actually committed a form of murder, right? So there's a crime being committed, even though we've legalized it on a national basis. God may not see it that way, but the point here is they're saying that if you look at the stats and run this up, right, they're saying that 1 out of every 2 individuals being aborted were criminals. That's what they're now think about this for a minute. So 2 things are going on here. So first of all, they have now determined on a pre-crime basis that 1 out of every 2 individuals that are being aborted are criminals. Most of those being in the African American community. Okay, statistics again, right? So we're just running how all the stats run together. But they're also saying that we've also aborted 50% of the people we aborted were potentially legal, smart, individual, producing individuals who are now no longer contribute to society, right? So if you want to spin the headline, yes, abortion's great, right? We're reducing crime. Well, this is here. I can solve the crime problem. We just abort everybody, and in one generation, we have no more crime. There you go. So that's the logic behind this argument, which is that, legalized abortion is good because we're reducing crime because we're legally aborting children. But, we can solve the whole crime problem if we just abort everybody. But here's the other problem with the statistics. Now, again, this isn't political commentary. This is economic research, right? This is from the National Bureau of Economic Research. If you look at my camera, there it is right there. It's in the Wall Street Journal today. But here's the interesting part about this. So, first of all, it says that 1 out of every 2 individuals that are aborted in the U.S. commit a crime. Okay. Here it is from the American Mirror. Non-U.S. citizens, non-citizens, in other words, illegal immigrants that are coming into the country, commit 42% of federal crimes in the country. Now, they're only 7% of the population. So non-U.S. citizens, illegal immigrants, are here, 7% of the population, but they commit 42% of the federal crimes. Now, hold on a second. If abortion is reducing the crime by 20%, and you've got illegal immigrants committing the other 42%, these numbers don't really add up. Okay, so again, you always have to take these studies with a bit of salt. But the issue here is, and this was from the study, from a 2017 data from U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey shows that non-citizens comprise about 7% of the country's population, but the 2018 annual report and source book of federal sentencing statistics shows that they committed more than 40%, 42% to be exact, of all federal crimes. This is from the United States Sentencing Commission reviewing 321,000 sentencing documents in fiscal year 2018. The courts reported 69,425 felony and Class A misdemeanor cases to the commission. This represents an increase of 2,500 cases from 2017 and the first increase since fiscal year 2011. The race of federal offenders remained largely unchanged from prior years. In fiscal year 2018, 54.3% of all offenders were Hispanic, 21.2% were white, 20.6% were black, and 3.8% were of another race. Non-U.S. citizens accounted for 42.7% of all federal offenders, but according to the National Bureau of Economic Research, 50 to 55% were done by unborn citizens, apparently. So, are going to be anyway. So, this is the problem with statistics. And again, this isn't I'm not making this as political commentary, but it is interesting from the standpoint that, when we talk about the socioeconomic impacts to the U.S., part of that ongoing debate is one of the issues that we have going forward is the lack of births in the United States. We have the lowest birth rate since 1940 in the U.S., which means that either we have to immigrate more individuals into the country or we have to increase the birth rate. And why is that important? Well, because if you're going to support Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and these type of things, it requires workers to pay into the system. And we currently have a big dearth of new workers coming into the system from a natively born base. So in other words, the number of people being born aren't increasing enough or at a pace fast enough to provide the number of workers necessary to continue to support the Social Security welfare benefits that we pay out in the country. So one of two things are ultimately going to happen is that either A, you're going to have to substantially decrease your welfare payouts or increase the taxes to support those on individuals, or you're going to have to start immigrating more individuals into the country legally. And this comes back to this whole idea of merit-based immigration, et cetera, that will continue to contribute to a stronger growth rate of productive individuals that are creating enough wealth in the country to continue to support in. Remember when Social Security was first formed back in the after the Depression, it was to put into place. Remember, people had lost everything after the financial crisis in 1929 and into the Depression that happened in the 30s. We put Social Security into place. Nobody was actually expected to collect on that because most people died at 62 anyway, and they didn't live that long. So, but there were 16 workers at the time paying in to every person drawing out of Social Security at that point in time. Today, that's less than 2 to 1. So for every individual that's paying in, you basically almost have one individual taking out. So it's simply just a dearth of individuals paying into the system to continue to support the structure. And of course, the other side is that we continue to live longer and longer and longer. We just won't die is the problem. And so that means that, that's a bigger burden upon the Social Security welfare system because people are continuing to live much longer now as we continue to improve health care and produce medicines, et cetera. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Got a lot of other stories to get into this morning. And get by the website, realinvestmentadvice.com. Our latest newsletter is out. Click on the newsletter tab. It's called Why Bulls Are Betting on a Long Shot. That's on the website now. Also, we have a new article up this morning. It is the 5 Laws of Human Stupidity. And it's actually a 1976 study on why the number of stupid people outweigh the number of smart people in the country and what you need to do about it when it comes to investing. That's on the website now, realinvestmentadvice.com. We'll be right back.
If you just lay down your tracks, you could have an aeroplane flying. If you bring your blue sky back, all you do is call me. I'll be anything you need.
Catch Lance Roberts' podcast later at lancerobertsshow.com.